we do have lots of algal blooms that we see in Maine that do discolor the water, that do bloom in real high concentrations. Prime example of that is Karenia mikimotoi, which another dubious honor for Casco Bay, is the first time this was ever found in Maine was in Casco Bay, out of the Fore River. So these bottles, you can see, this is that bottle on the left, that's water right at the surface, the first few inches. So it's real dark. And then under that, it sort of had a brownish tea color. So one way, if you're seeing large scale water discolorations, to get an idea that you're probably looking at an algal bloom, is that algae feed on sunlight. So they want to be near the surface most of the time. So if you're looking at the water and you're able to see what's at the surface and what's just below it, and you can see that it's a lot darker right at the surface just for the first few inches, well, that's most likely an algal bloom where they're trying to be at the surface water. It's very common to have brown discolorations in this image. It's kind of hard to see because it's so uniform, but everywhere you can see in this, it's just brownish hued water. When you have large blooms, really from any phytoplankton species, it's very common to see some foam or scum associated with that, especially when the bloom starts to die off. Then you get bacteria action and you get some scum. That usually also means you're getting odor. That odor's another good indication. If you're just seeing discoloration, you're trying to figure out what this might be to report it, it's good to pay attention to whether or not you're seeing scum or foam, whether or not you're getting an odor. The odor, I would describe it sort of like a rotten vegetable smell. It's sort of rotten vegetable mixed with a little bit of that fish smell, but it mostly smells like rotten vegetables. Here are a couple other images of that same bloom, the Karenia bloom. And here you can see brown lining the shores in both pictures. One that looks a little more orange brown and one a little more of a tan brown. It's very common that with the wind, they'll be blown right against shore and not filling necessarily an entire bay or cove, but it might be right on the shore where you're standing. So that can help in identifying what these are. Often when you see these smaller blooms, they are very wispy. It's kind of, the way I would describe it, it's kind of like if you're pouring a glass of chocolate milk and you've added the chocolate syrup in and you've just started to stir it in, but you didn't finish stirring it in, you get that really wispy look to it. That's what phytoplankton blooms usually look like until they're at such a scale that it's just completely filling the water body, and then it's more or less a uniform color. So generally, that's a good indicator. If you see that wispiness just right on the surface, very patchy. One last image of that same bloom. Here it's actually the reverse. What kind of looks like in the middle as the reflection of clouds is actually a large bloom. This one's out in the middle of the water, so you wouldn't see it from shore. This would be if you're out on a boat going through it, then you'd be in perfectly clear water, then all at once you'd be within this. And as you're going through it, you'll clearly see it parting out of your way. So that's a good indicator you're looking at a phytoplankton bloom as well. I already mentioned this, but bloom sizes are highly variable. On the left, you get it where it's just hugging the shore in a cove. On the right, this is a satellite image. Everything that's that brownish green color that's out in Casco Bay, kind of getting out into the open ocean, that's all large Karenia mikimotoi blooms. So this can be at all kinds of different scales. Some you're only going to see if you're out on a boat. Some you'll only see hugging a shoreline. Some is just filling the whole water body.